Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Queen Show here from San Diego and from LA. So I'm here with my dear, beautiful friend that I met last year in LA. And it was such a click when we met. I saw and said, oh my goodness, such a beautiful lady. And then we started talking about everything that she was doing and about her book here, which I got it automatically. And here we are sharing her story, raw talk with a wonderful and real woman. So Michelle is an international philanthropist. She's a speaker, author, and coach that has traveled the world as an advocate for the less fortunate. And I invite you to look at her websites because you'll see her pictures. They are so inspiring. In August 2016, she focused her effort on ending domestic violence. This is a huge, huge problem in the whole world. Michelle found in 2017 founded Unsilenced Voices, which is a 501 nonprofit focused on inspiring change in communities around the globe by encouraging victims to break free and survivors to speak up about domestic violence and sexual assault. Actually, Michelle has been in a relationship like that. That's why she started all this as her way to inspire others to succeed like she is right now. She has since completed and published her personal memoir, which is the book But I Love Him, which is a painful yet inspirational true story of a strong, independent woman caught in the horrifying cycle of domestic violence and how she got out. So I'm sure that you already know somebody that is being or it is part of this cycle of domestic violence. And so I will invite you to really share this episode because it's going to be so worth it. You can receive a complimentary digital download. This is the book. And as you can see, I have all these notes because every single page is incredible. It's so good. It's gold, pure gold. So the great news is that you can get a book by text, a download of this book by texting obstacles to the number 26786. You're going to get the introduction for the book. Michelle coaches individuals and entrepreneurs to have tremendous breakthroughs by overcoming obstacles and defeating fear and failure. She's recognized as a valuable resource in the speaking industry. She's in the go-to professional speaker who uses her story of survival as encouragement and motivation for others. So she used reflective techniques in her presentation, so she creates aha moments that leads to transformation. Attendees leave inspired, revitalized, and ready to pursue their journey with renewed focus. So I can't wait for the whole interview because you're going to get so much today. Michelle's story makes a lasting impression on the audience and gives them the power to take their lives back. So how, what it would be for you, what would it mean to take your whole life back? So welcome, Michelle, and thank you for being here with me today.
Sylvia, thank you so much. I am very, very excited to share with your audience and to answer the many questions that you have. And I'm just honored and blessed that you have dove so deep into But I Love Him and you were able to take some chunks out. So really, thank you for having me on. And I hope that I can benefit your audience as well.
I'm sure you will, because, this book, you gotta buy it, even though you're gonna get the introduction, get it because they're so amazing and great nuggets. And the first question that I have for you is, where did it all started? When you look at your past and your experiences, when do you think that all this cycle started in yourself as a woman, as a girl?
Well, I'll kind of talk a bit about who I am and give you a brief history. I was born in the 80s to a beautiful mother and father, and I had a brother, and we were taught that family meant everything. But my daddy was in the military, so we traveled a lot. And I switched schools multiple times. So for me, I knew that making friends was easy, but then losing them was easy as well. So fast forward my life to 2012, when I meet this very handsome, blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy who swept me off my feet, that quickly turned into abuse. I was subconsciously okay with getting the little bits and little chunks of affirmations and care from him, even though it came with emotional, physical, financial, and sexual abuse. But this was all subconscious. I didn't become aware of the problem until I had enrolled myself in therapy and then started to create a program, steps that I've actually used to help me overcome a lot of my trauma and obstacles and experiences. But to answer your question fully, Sylvia, it really started when I was young. And it was not my parents' fault at all. That's just kind of how it happened. And everybody's life isn't perfect. There's always ups and downs. But I was in love with the idea of love. And I was holding on to the idea of a Prince Charming, the idea of a knight in shining armor to come, pick me up on his white stallion. I loved that so much.
Yeah.
So when I met Paul, and the initial part of our relationship was so great. He courted me and sent me flowers and text messages, and we went to Lakers games and Dodgers games, and I really fell for him very, very hard. And I say this all the time, it was the best relationship and the worst relationship of my life. And I've learned now, but I also know where it all stemmed from.
Absolutely. And I believe, because that's the work that I do with my clients, that everything starts when you're a little girl, even though there are many cases where they repeat the cycles of their moms or their dads, or even sometimes both of them have been abused in the past and they've been living in this abusive relationship. And they somehow, even though their parents do everything the best way they can, the parent keeps repeating. And I love where you said, this is my story. I'm sharing this heartbreaking time in my life so I can give people hope and confidence beyond the circumstances. I love that you wrote, because that's what I want to give at the end, because I know this is a story of success. Everything you went through took you to where you are today, and you're an amazing woman. You're changing the world. You're impacting people's lives. And actually you're here to give the message. So beyond any circumstance that you're going through, just listen to the story and inspire yourself to realize that you can also get out of this situation, and break the cycle. Absolutely.
I appreciate that, Sylvia. Thank you so much, because it is so important to remember, especially if you're listening to this, that your circumstances do not define who you are, but it's how you react to your circumstances. I am not perfect by any means, and I am nobody special. But although I have gone through something horrific and been able to turn my life around, it just means that you can do the same thing.
Absolutely. And that's hope. So I need you, that you're watching this story, if you know somebody that's going through domestic violence, to abuse, please show them this, because there is light at the end of the tunnel. And look at Michelle. She's an amazing lady, and she's not only changing her life, but impacting so many others. And this is the thing, right? What you can do with your story is just feel miserable and the victim for the rest of your life, or you just can make that decision that will empower you, because you have the power. Like, we are just regular ladies. We have no 3 hands or four eyes, We are from this earth, exactly. We're just regular people. And the question that I want to ask you, so maybe because the listeners and the viewers are not going to know exactly, if you can share the story that you lived with Paul, just maybe a short version of the story, and then they can read all the details in your book, because they are really so good. So who was he? What kind of behavior he had? And now that you can see from far, what was the things that you didn't see at the beginning?
Yeah, of course. That's a very important question, because oftentimes we're blinded by love. And we are blinded by the idea, like I said in the beginning, of love. So when I met Paul, he was a very successful entrepreneur. And I was very much attracted to that. I was attracted not just to the success, but to his dream and his vision for his life. So I really held on to his coattails, and I was more or less his cheerleader along the way. I mean, even during our relationship, he would take me to business meetings and ask me my opinion. But I remember the first time there was any physical violence in our relationship, and it was only roughly about 4 months into the relationship. And we started dating, I want to say January 2012. And about April, we ended up getting into an argument. And when we got into that argument, he had pushed me so hard against the wall that my head kind of bounced back and went through the wall. And I just remember stepping forward and looking behind me and seeing the indentation. And all I could think was, I got to patch it. I didn't think I was in trouble. I didn't think that I needed to run.
Wow.
I just thought I needed to patch it, and I had triggered Paul, and it was my fault.
Wow.
Right? Although that's not true, you know.
Absolutely, but that's what you felt.
Yeah, that is exactly what I felt. So when you fast forward, I stayed with Paul for 4 years. And during those 4 years, there was multiple times where I should have died. I was beat up twice for over 4 hours each time, strangled. There was sexual violence. There was one time where the abuse was so severe that I ended up waking up the next morning, and Paul had been holding my hand all night. I think subconsciously thinking that if he held my hand, then I wouldn't run away. But I was so weak to even think about running away during that time. And he looked at me, and I opened my eye, and my face looked like I had just completed a 10-round ring in a boxing match, black and blue. He had pushed so hard against my face that people thought I had jaundice in my eye for over 9 months.
Wow.
And you know what's crazy is a lot of people say, well, why didn't you leave? Right? And that kind of will start answering the question that you asked. Mm-hmm. It's not that easy. And the people who have experienced or who are experiencing domestic violence or any type of abuse, emotional abuse, it's a lot more difficult because there's that apology stage. So the cycle goes from walking on eggshells to, I'm sorry, I promise I will never do it again, to then a big blow up and it starts all over again. But that apology stage is what keeps most victims trapped in abusive relationships, because we truly believe them that they will stop. And they actually truly believe it themselves. But looking back, I did notice some red flags in our relationship where he would be very narcissistic, where he would talk very high and mighty about himself. Although he would praise me in the beginning, those praises quickly turned into words that were distasteful, where he was not admiring me, but really putting me down for things that I was doing. During that time, I was pursuing an acting career, and he would tell me I was successful and beautiful, but yet on the other end, he's like, well, that's going to get you nowhere in life, and I don't know why you're wasting your time. So it was this dichotomy that happened. And then also the way he talked and interacted with his friends and people around him. So those were just a couple of red flags that I didn't notice in the very beginning stages of the relationship, but looking back on my past, they're very evident.
Yeah, well, but you know, if it would be so easy to realize, we would not be talking about this. Unfortunately, we have so many beliefs, especially we as women. We've been taught so many lies for thousands of years about what is to be a good girl, what it means to be a good wife and a good partner, and we have to put up with everything just because we have to stay truthful to our marriage, you know, strong, and the man is the king. And I mean, even Disney World screwed us up when he talks about this prince that is going to come to rescue us, and you know that nobody can rescue us but ourselves. So, you know, and I love what you put in the page 43. You say, maybe it is me. I was troubled, anxious, tense, edgy, and worried. So whatever he did, you blame it on yourself. And I add some notes because I heard that from women and even from old patients and new patients, that they are broken. They are the ones that are broken. They are the ones that have the trouble. They are the ones that are damaged. And no, I guess that these narcissistic people, it could be men or women, and just they prey on people that have this belief about themselves. And you didn't know what you didn't know, right? Now you know, and that's why you can help others. So if you are in a situation where you feel and you see some red flags, just, I'm not saying that you gotta run away, because maybe you are not in the position, in the mindset position to run away, but ask for help, search, look, and get in touch with Michelle. She knows, she's been there like you are. So please don't stay in a place where you're not loved, you're not happy, you're being abused, because trust me, that's not what you deserve, no matter what anybody told you, right?
Yeah, and it's very important to also understand that I ended up going back to my abuser like 7 different times. Left, went back, left, and went back. And he has, most abusers have like a Jekyll and Hyde character to them, where on the forefront, in public, they're this amazing man who is very successful and can achieve all these things and visions and help companies and you name it. But then behind closed doors, they become a monster. And then I remember when I started just speaking a little bit about my story, and this was when I was still involved, people at first were just like, what are you talking about? So then I stopped talking about it. Right. And then that's when I started internalizing. I mean, my mama raised me to be a strong, independent woman. And I still got myself trapped in this abusive relationship because I so badly wanted love. Absolutely. And, you can't blame yourself, right? Because it's not your fault. And just because you've gone through things that have caused you to go into this relationship doesn't mean that you cannot escape and change your perspective. I mean, now I'm coaching all around the world, traveling everywhere and speaking on stages. I mean, I just spoke on a stage in March in Egypt, and coming back to the United States was very difficult because I got stuck in London and Ghana, and it was crazy times. But I'm so happy I was there, because so many of the women there, they don't understand that it's not their fault. They don't understand that they do have a voice and they don't have to put up with that BS.
And you're giving them those voices, like when you say, this is not right, you don't have to play with this. Some of them would say, no, that's not what I'm supposed to put up with. So it's so good that you're telling that this is not the normal. We're normalizing sometimes what is not normal. And that's not even love, That is not love. That is anything but love, because love is caring, love is a lot of other things. So I'm so glad that you're doing this with other women. To be honest, it's so I really admire your work. We need so many of you. We need to clone you and like 20 more.
Well, that's why I do what I do, right? Is so I can impact all of you, including yourself, Sylvia, to Absolutely. Make it different. Because we're change makers, right? Like I said in the beginning, there's nothing special about me. I was just able to overcome a lot of crap. And because I'm able to overcome it, I can teach people. So you don't give a man a fish, you teach them how to fish. And that's what our goal is. I mean, with both my companies.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So let me ask you, I think you kind of answered that, but where's the main reasons victims stay in abusive relationships beside, looking for love and thinking that they are broken or it's their fault? There's maybe some other things, some kind of personality that can, fall into these unhealthy relationships, or it could be anybody.
Well, I think the main reason is definitely the cycle of abuse, the walking on eggshells, then the big blow up, then the apology stage, and then the repetitiveness of that cycle. It's a very dangerous, cyclical, awful thing, right? And I remember thinking to myself that it was all my fault. And the thing is narcissistic abusers will make you think and feel like it is your fault. So a lot of the reason why victims stay trapped is also because we internalize it. We think we triggered them. We think it's our fault. Like you read on page 43 in my book, maybe it was my fault, but it wasn't. That was just my mindset at the time. And it's learning to understand that it's never your fault. You never deserve to be beat up, emotionally abused, sexually assaulted, financially abused. You don't deserve that ever. And that's something that we teach with Unsilenced Voices, especially in other countries. We're in Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Rwanda, that they're used to this abuse, a lot of these women. And there's even a tribe in Ghana, the Timene tribe, I believe it is, where the women truly believe that if their husbands don't hit them, then they don't love them.
Oh my God.
So it's not changing their cultural beliefs at all. It's just informing them of their rights and what morals and values look like, and really to respect yourself. And then once we get that around the world more, especially with more women, then we can stop this dangerous cycle.
Yeah, it's incredible that still, because in this tribes, you can understand, because it's something that they're still in an underdevelopment area. But here in the States, we have so much information, and still so many of us suffer from domestic violence. So do you think that narcissistic men or women, are they built, they are born like that, they're really looking for prey, or how do you think the cycle of these people is?
Well, that's a nature-nurture controversy, right? So you can be born a certain way, or you can learn the behavior. Now, with abuse, I think that the behavior is mostly learned throughout your life. So when you're born and you have something happen. So like I had a very loving mother and father. They were amazing. Although in the very beginning, early stages of my childhood, I was taken away from my parents for like 5 months, didn't understand why. I was 7 years old at the time. They were very busy with their work, so I didn't always get their emotional attention. So then when I went into adulthood, then I started grasping on to whoever would give me that type of attention. Now, don't get me wrong, my mom and dad did the best they could, and I love them both very, very much. But little things like that will add up. Now, with a narcissistic abuser, typically they've experienced some type of abuse, or they've seen it or heard it throughout their childhood. So with Paul, I know that Paul's mother experienced severe violence from his stepfather.
Wow.
Paul never said that he saw it. He never believed his mother. He actually had something else happen later on in his life that made him despise his mom. He actually beat me up one time and said his mother's name. So there is an underlying issue that he didn't deal with. Now, I truly believe that abusers can be healed, but they have to put in the work. Just like victims and survivors have to put in the work in order to heal. So I often say you have to feel to heal. You have to feel through those emotions. Just like with an abuser, you have to feel through those uncomfortable moments, those uncomfortable childhood experiences in order to recover, so you don't hurt people later on.
I agree absolutely, because I heard so many times hurt people, but I know of many hurt people that don't hurt people. So it is a choice, and there's a moment that you could decide something different. So let me ask you, what it means for you, Unsilenced Voices, your creation, your organization. What's the meaning of that?
My baby, right? This is my baby. This is something that I will never stop. I remember first coming up with this idea. It was, early in 2017, I was interviewing for another nonprofit organization because I just had a heart to help women because I had gone through violence. So I worked on Skid Row for about 6 months, volunteering my time with the Downtown Women's Center. And then I flew up to Oakland to interview with another nonprofit called Art and Abolition. Well, I'm very spiritual. So when I was there, I felt God's presence, but I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there. So if you know me, or even if you don't, I love my wine. So the next day, I walk around San Francisco, I have a glass of wine on Pier 39 and some clam chowder. And this gentleman comes up to me and we start talking. And I tell him my story and he says, you should start a nonprofit. And I said, okay, well, this isn't the first time I heard this, so maybe this is the time I should listen. And I listened. We were 501c3 within a month, but it was kind of fun trying to come up with the name. So at that time I was bartending, and bartenders are therapists, if you don't know. It's just like hairstylists and estheticians. So people would talk to me. So then I would interact with my customers and we would throw names out there and talk about, different ideas for a nonprofit organization. And Unsilenced Voices just came about after, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks. And to me, what Unsilenced Voices really means and represents is that we get to unsilence all of the voices that are quiet, that are forced to be quiet, that are forced not to say anything in the world, be able to speak. And I think that is so, so important to be able to share your story. Absolutely. Because if you're not able to share your story, you cannot move forward. So I started sharing mine and, it's made a huge impact. Awesome. And I share my story in Africa and, because there's stereotypes, me going to Africa. I'm a blonde white woman, right? Right? But I've always had a heart for Africans. So when I go, we don't bring Western culture. We talk to them and we ask them what they want. And that's what we integrate into our programs and courses. And we help them to unsilence their voice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you create this empathy with them and what is it that because even though if I see you and I don't know your story, she probably had a perfect life and nothing happened to her, and we know that it's not true. But I really think that, wow, yeah, your baby, I could see when I asked you your smile and so big that, yeah, because I can't even imagine the feeling that you have every time you're there and you talk to these women and you touch their soul and your soul gets all together, it's like, I'm very spiritual too, and I believe that, this connection through the souls,
So I want to tell your viewers an amazing story because it's so awesome to be able to use your story to empower and impact other people, especially people that speak different languages in different countries. So we started a program in Sierra Leone. We call it Matilda's program. There's a whole reason behind that we can get into later if you'd like. But we rescue young girls who sell themselves as sex workers on the street. We rescue them and pay for their education, their vocational training. And then there's this one girl who has stood out so much that she's excelling in vocational training. She is making tie-dye and gara and clothing and all of this, but she is actually giving back to Unsilenced Voices. She is going out with our team. She is being an advocate. She's going on the streets, expressing how important it is to speak up, to enroll in classes, to not sell your bodies on the streets. Wow. And I got to meet her when I was there. Sorry, I'm getting all...
No, I'm getting emotional and I wasn't even there.
I got to meet her and she ended up giving me a chicken, making me this entire outfit. She just showed so much appreciation and I didn't even, I was flabbergasted. And just because I went through something and decided to maybe I'm going to create a nonprofit and travel overseas. I've now been able to impact this woman so much. And she's like 19 years old.
Oh my God.
So much. Now she's hitting the streets in her own country, being an advocate and changing the lives of so many people.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yes, it is amazing.
It's all emotional, but
I love it. I love your emotion, because when sometimes people says, I can't change the world. Who am I gonna do? And I so believe in the power of one. Like, you are one. You decided this, and you touched that life, and then she touched other lives. And I get goosebumps, because it's just touching one life. If you could change one person, imagine she's 19 and she's been through so much, and now she's advocating for the cause and bringing more. So can you imagine her life if this wouldn't happen to her, like having the opportunity, because you one day listen to God's voice, on your inner voice and your soul saying, let's do something about it. Because you could stay home and say, no, for your whole life, oh, poor me, look at this. And you didn't. You decide to take over your power. And this is what I want people to see, that as you did it, anybody can. You that you're watching, you have the power to embrace who you truly are, because you can change the world. And you got to speak up, and you got to reach out, and you got to go out. You don't deserve abuse, any kind of abuse. No matter where you are, no matter what they told you, you have rights. You are powerful beyond your beliefs, because I'm sure during those abuses, you didn't know you were so powerful. And look at you now,
I'm so grateful. And I just turned 37 years old. So I was at the beach recently.
Yeah, baby.
I was at the beach recently because we teach writing, right? So I teach a lot of writing therapy. So I've been doing a lot more journaling lately, because I'm doing a lot of private coaching. So therapists need therapists, coaches need coaches.
Absolutely.
And my therapist is like, do what you teach. So I went to the beach and started writing, and just writing and writing and writing. And it's so crazy. We've been able to come up with like an entire system to help people overcome their challenges, because it doesn't happen overnight.
No,
It took me a few years to recover before I could start speaking up. I ended up writing a solo play where I performed me and my abuser and roughly 10 other characters on stage. I beat myself up on stage, 65-minute solo show. And that really helped to heal me. But what was so amazing, and what came from that, is everything else. I mean, now I get to speak on stages all around the world. I get paid for coaching. I get paid for speaking. And we're creating a movement,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's a movement to empower other people to break free from this awful cycle. Yes. And here in the United States, now we're also becoming advocates against human trafficking. We've got a handful of different partners, and people don't understand how prevalent that is. It's not just internationally, it's here in our own backyard in the United States as well.
We are the number one country in the world with human trafficking.
So what's crazy is we are actually the number one consumer of sex trafficking in the world.
Yes.
White American men are the number one consumers. So the only people who are going to stop human trafficking and sex trafficking are white American men. So if you're a white American male, please speak up. Stand up against this injustice. Don't be a John for a sex worker.
Absolutely, because it's so heartbreaking just to hear those stories. Just imagining, I have 5 kids and I adore my kids, and I have 1 grandson, and just thinking about what these kids are going through right here in front of our noses, right here, San Diego, Petco Stadium and everywhere. So this is something that I'm really grateful for you that you're doing this. To be honest, I'm grateful, and I would love to get more involved on that, because I believe we need to do something about it. Absolutely, we all need to do something about it. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, because at the end, before I know this is kind of changing gear, but at the end, and the author of Final Notes, you said he assaulted 3 women in the course of 8 years. And at the beginning, he got probation. So And I heard that so many times, and I'm actually part of a group of narcissistic wives and husbands, and especially with the wives, they always, most of the time, they don't get justice in the justice system. So I don't know if you can talk something, because you've been there, and I'm not sure, not just about your case, but about other cases. Why is so injustice the justice for women?
Well, you have to remember that um, abuse to women has been going on since the very beginning of time.
Yes.
So oftentimes men, especially men in power,
Yeah.
think that our problems, the fact that we got slapped or hit or yelled at, was our fault. Like it's a natural thing, right? So fast forward to 2020, because we're in 2020 now. And we still are having problems, but we're now seeing protests and riots, not just for Black Lives Matter, but we're also seeing it for women's empowerment issues and justice for women. And the thing that I have noticed throughout the years, so I did get into a lawsuit against my abuser, and he was in another lawsuit with abuse with another victim. I can't go into a lot of details.
No,
So
absolutely. No. Yeah.
And he, in the beginning, he didn't get anything, right? He very successful man, had a lot of money to throw at his attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the very beginning, he wasn't sentenced. Well, eventually it caught up to him and he had a repercussion. But it wasn't a very long or lengthy repercussion, but it was some form of a repercussion. Now, I think that we're going to start to see throughout the years it increase. So if you hit a woman, if you have physical violence, rape a woman, I think that we're going to start to see the justice system crack down even more in that. But I think for so long it's been like this because it has been normal.
Absolutely.
You don't know what you don't know. And
Absolutely.
a lot of the justices, they're older. They don't get it. I remember speaking at a church one time and the pastor told me that he doesn't know anybody who's experienced domestic violence. And I literally looked at him and I was like, over 50% of your congregation are women.
Yeah.
Over a quarter of those women have experienced domestic violence, if you know it or don't, right?
Yeah, even I heard cases where the pastor told this lady that she was being abused and he was alcoholic to stay in the marriage because God wanted her to save him. And she stayed in that marriage for years because she was supposed to stay there. And I find that horrifying. I mean, that somebody that has power over the others, like a pastor, like a priest, saying those kind of horrific words. It's they go to jail directly because
I would like to share something. When I was in my abusive relationship, I used to go on hikes. I used to scream at God, why can't you change Paul? Why can't this change? What is so wrong with this situation, right? And I used to blame God. And then I asked God, I'm like, do I forgive him for this? Do I forgive him for that? I heard from God, I felt that verse, how many times do I forgive? 7 times. And Jesus said, no, 7 times, 70 times. And that stood out to me so much. And I thought that forgiveness meant I had to stay with Paul. But that forgiveness was to set myself free. I was supposed to leave and escape that relationship, but be able to look at the relationship and forgive him for the trespasses that he has committed against me. It took me a while to get there, but I finally did. And I actually hope one day, and I've said this on multiple stages, so one day I do hope it does happen, but I hope one day that he can recover, because like you said, Sylvia, hurt people. And I hope that he really can get the therapy he needs, the counseling he needs to recover from his childhood traumas, and we can stand up on stage together and share our story together, and that could be so much more impactful
Yeah.
especially for narcissistic abusers who are still abusing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe in that everybody has the capacity to heal.
Yeah.
You gotta know, you gotta want to heal. That's all. And we hear so many stories of even men that have gone through so much abuse and so much trauma, and still they are an example to society, and they share the message, and they impact so many lives. So there is a way out. Absolutely, I agree with you. I agree with you. So. So what is the life today in Michelle's life? What is life? What is a relationship? So what changed after all your healing process? How are your relationships nowadays?
I have a lot of great friends. Unfortunately, my mother passed away a year ago. My father passed away 5 years ago. I have an estranged relationship with my brother, but I love him dearly. He is battling his own demons. So the only way that I can help him is really to show him that he can recover. He's battling a drug addiction. But really, I surround myself with people who uplift me. I work with coaches and organizations. Bill Walsh is my coach. He's my business coach. I
Right.
have, I have a therapist that I talk to as well, because I am now coaching other people. So I have to have an outlet myself.
Absolutely.
But a day in a life of me, if it's a weekend, you can find me at the beach. I love the beach. I love the sun. I love the sand. I write a lot at the beach, hang out with my friends. I love my wine, so I definitely have a glass of wine in my hand oftentimes. I laugh a lot because I think that laughter can cure so much. I work my butt off. I probably put in 8 or 9 hours a day just sitting in front of a computer, which drives me crazy right now because of the pandemic, but I do. And to tell you the truth, the first 3 weeks of the pandemic, I almost lost my mind. I was pulling my hair out. I didn't understand what all this was or why I was waking up with sweaty palms. But then I started implementing, the 5 tips that we teach, the 5 steps to overcome obstacles. And I started implementing that in my own life. And now I'm happier. And even during the pandemic, I talk to friends. I have a core group of people of only 3 people that I see all the time. But then I speak on stages like this. I get to interview with amazing women like you, Sylvia, and I get to tell my story. I get to really talk. And we've expanded Unsilenced Voices during a pandemic. We have expanded to Rwanda. So
Wow.
we're now in Ghana and Sierra Leone, just expanded to Rwanda last month. And we are fiscal sponsors for 2 organizations, one in Nepal, the other the Netherlands. And as soon as the world opens back up, we're doing our first event in the United States in Los Angeles called the Core Transformation Movement, where we're going to be providing resources to survivors and education for the community. So it's amazing. You can do so much if you just decide to pivot. I've hired a virtual assistant that is absolutely amazing right now, and he's reaching out and getting me booked on all these virtual stages. It's great. It's wonderful. But
Yes.
I wake up and gratitude is my word for 37 years old, is gratitude.
I'm so happy. And when I saw you, I remember seeing the slides. And I think that with all the story, probably you were in a dark place at that time, but now you're in the light. You're pure light. Just your image and your smile and the way you talk to others. And this is what I want to offer the audience, is like seeing and hearing your story. And even if you read it, the whole book, because I encourage you, I highly encourage you to read the whole book. You'll see that from a place of so much pain and darkness and even physical pain. I've seen the pictures in here. You're here in this place of full light and impacting other people's lives. So, this is so good. So let me ask you, I'm going to ask you the last question. So I want to respect the time and your time, because I know you're super busy. So what is love for you now that you've been through the pain, the trauma, the not love story, and then, and now you're surrounded by love and appreciation, like the story that you just shared with me, that I can see your heart flowing and, with so much love. What is love for you?
So when I left my abusive relationship, I I had a hard time being in a relationship. You know, I had PTSD, especially when I would drive somebody in my car, a male in my car, because Paul used to scream at me when I was driving. So that took a while to get over. But I finally ended up meeting a guy, and I'll just say his real name because we're still really, really, really good friends. Like, he's my best guy friend ever, probably. His name is Dan, and he really taught me what it was like to be loved again. He taught me how to golf. We laughed. We never fought. We didn't really argue. We believed difference in politically. We believed different things, like, all over the spectrum. But he taught me that I can have, like, a conversation instead of an argument. And you know, we're not together now for practical reasons, but he is my best friend. I see him like three days a week. I'm still looking for the love of my life, like, to marry, but I am very, very grateful for the friendships that I have right now. I've got amazing women who are my friends, amazing men who are my friends. I definitely in my future see a man who is very supportive in what I do, but also has his own thing. I think that that's very, very important. Somebody who wants to travel with me, somebody who wants to see the world, somebody who likes to laugh with me. And then, you know, of course, when we're alone, somebody who is affectionate and shows me appreciation. So I think that that's very, very attainable. I think right now God has me on a mission to keep going. But once I do meet that man, I'm very, very excited for him coming into my life.
Absolutely. I love what you said, that love is not fighting. Love is having a conversation or an argument. And love is feeling that you're loved and you can have this companion. That's what is love. All the rest is absolutely not love. And it's coming from another place. And yeah, that's super cool. What would you tell somebody that is right now in the cycle? I know I said it was the last question, but somebody that's right now in the middle of this turmoil and doesn't know what to do, she's looking at those red flags, but what would you tell her?
It's not your fault. That's the main thing that I would say, because I know that I used to blame myself, and that's why I would stay. But it's not your fault. And if you are still in the relationship and you know you have to leave and you see the red flags and you see the cycle and then you leave and then you go back, don't blame yourself. It's normal. You're doing something that most survivors of domestic violence have gone through, right? So just keep going. Wake up and put one foot in front of the other, and eventually break free from that relationship, because it is so detrimental. But you also have to come to realization. I'll say, our 5-step process real quickly, because this could help you, and I will also gift that to your audience.
Absolutely.
So if you text UNITE, UNITE, to 26786, again, it's UNITE, UNITE, to 26786, you'll receive a PDF of the 5-step process to help you overcome obstacles and trauma. The first step is realization, understanding what it is you're going through. Second step is elevating your thoughts, choosing your thoughts daily. What you think you can or you can't, you're right? That's what Henry Ford and Napoleon Hill says, one of those. The next step is feelings. We have to move from your head to your heart, right? So learning how to elevate those feelings, but also learning to express yourself, because you don't want to not express yourself and experience ailments, physical and emotional ailments later on, because you kept silent, right? Yeah. And then the next step is words. Positive power words, words of affirmation. Put positive words around you. I can overcome. I can achieve. This doesn't define who I am. I am moving forward. I'm grateful. I'm beautiful. All these things. Post-its. Put post-its around your house, right? And then the last one is actions. Actually taking those action steps. So the primary thing that we teach is go someplace and sit and do stream of consciousness writing. Just get out all of these emotions and feelings and write them out. It doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to share it with anybody, but just write. So those are the five simple steps. Again, I don't have time to go over it. So go ahead and text UNITE to
Yeah.
26786, and you can get that PDF.
Yeah, we'll put all that information in the comments. And if somebody from overseas wants to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
So if you see that, so unsilencedvoices.org. If you put Michelle in front of that, MICHELLE at unsilencedvoices.org, you can contact me directly. So again, it's Michelle at unsilencedvoices.org.
That's so cool, because we have an international audience, so I want everybody to be able to find you. So, wow, what a show. Thank you, Michelle, for being here. You're such a gift to the world. You're such a light, and everything about you is beautiful, and what you're doing. I think that I find an amazing lady on December, just because you were there, but we meant to be together and know each other. And I remember I bought your book, and this is, wow, I can share that even with my clients, and your 5 steps are wonderful. It looks simple, but you gotta do it. So please get in touch with Michelle. And also, for everybody, join my Facebook group, which is a free one. It's called Love During Quarantine, and you'll get all the news and so many inspiration about love. And this is the way we are connected, because quarantine is not easy, but we can do it because we are together. Thank you very much, Michelle. I love you. You are amazing. I really admire you. And we'll stay together through this, and we're going to change the world, lady.
Yay, let's change the world together. Sylvia, thank you so much for having me on your show. And if you need help, if you're out there, please do not hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. Same here. We're here to serve each other. Okay. Thank you. And remember, you were born to love deeply and be absolutely deeply loved. Don't even think about settling for anything less than that. Bye, everyone. See you next week.